This is Joe Biden. On December 17, 2021, Biden spoke at South Carolina State University's fall commencement. The following was the most talked about moment of the speech.
But all kidding aside, of course, President Harris is a proud Howard alum.
Yep, Biden referred to Kamala Harris as President Harris. It's not the first time he's done it, and it won't be the last either.
Just today, he called Kamala Harris president again.
Oh, well, I never called Mike Pence president. I'll tell you, I can't imagine what's going on. It's hard to believe.
Look, at this point, I'd be concerned if Biden didn't call her President Harris. The guy's a human gaffe machine. But for many pundits and people on Twitter, that was the biggest takeaway. And I think that's a mistake. So let's look at some other moments from Biden's address that you may have missed.
I got started in politics because of the civil rights movement. Because I sat in a black church after going to 7 o'clock mass. I'm happen to be a practicing Catholic. At 10 o'clock on the east side, getting ready to go out and desegregate restaurants and movie theaters in my state.
No, he didn't. This is a lie and has been thoroughly debunked by Joe Biden himself.
During the 60s, I was, in fact, very concerned about the civil rights movement. I was not an activist. I worked at an all-black swimming pool in the east side of Wilmington, Delaware. I was involved in what they were thinking, what they were feeling. I was involved, but I was not out marching. I was not down in Selma. I was not anywhere else.
I do not understand how the African American community can support anyone who lies about having a role in the civil rights movement for the sole purpose of pandering. It's insulting. Furthermore, this is the man who wrote the landmark 1994 Biden crime bill that included the 3 strikes provision that led to mass incarceration. Yet black people are totally cool with that too. But whatever. Vote Democrat forever. What do I care?
I was chairman of the Judiciary Committee for a long time. At the end of my stint, before I became vice president, I was able to pass the extension of the Voting Rights Act for 25 years, and guess what? And convinced Strom Thurmond of South Carolina to vote for it. No, not a joke.
So let's break this down. Near the end of his stint in the Judiciary Committee, before he became vice president, thanks Obama, Congress voted to extend the Voting Rights Act by 25 years. This vote occurred in 2006, and Biden is taking credit for getting it passed, which in itself is a dubious claim because it passed unanimously in the Senate, which suggests that there wasn't the need for a lot of wheeling and dealing. But then there's Biden's claim that he convinced South Carolina Senator Strom Thurmond to vote yes on the extension. Except there's 2 things you should know. First, Senator Thurmond voted to renew the Voting Rights Act back in 1982, so it's not a stretch that he would have voted to renew it in 2006. Second, Biden claiming that he convinced Strom Thurmond to vote for it in 2006 is impossible, considering that Strom Thurmond died in 2003. Or maybe Joe Biden had that conversation with Strom Thurmond's Force Ghost, I don't know.
We've supported Democrats fighting for voting rights bills since day one of our administration, making sure that we have unanimous support among Democrats in the Senate, which we do. But each and every time it gets to be brought up, that other team blocks the ability even to start to discuss it.
Republicans are blocking H.R. 1, the so-called voting rights bill, because it would make existing photo ID laws in every state illegal. It would eliminate the ability to remove ineligible voters from voter lists. It would make ballot harvesting legal. It would force states to allow felons to vote. In other words, it's an unconstitutional federal power grab, which is why the Democrats want it so badly.
That other team, what used to be called the Republican Party.
And there it is, slandering the Republican Party. So much for Biden's promise to be the great f***ing unifier.
Well, guess what?
What, Joe?
I've never seen anything like the unrelenting assault on the right to vote. Never. I don't think any of you have on this stage ever seen it.
Really? Well, on that stage is Congressman Jim Clyburn, who lived in South Carolina during the real Jim Crow era, where Democrats used poll taxes and literacy tests to prevent African Americans from voting at all. And for Biden to compare having to show a photo ID in order to vote with actual discrimination against black voters just shows what a dishonest and corrupt politician he is.
What makes Jim so effective as the highest ranking Southern African American ever in the House of Representatives is Jim never forgets where he came from. Don't you ever forget where you came from.
And that's a nice message. Remember your roots, because
That's your secret power.
yeah, why are you yelling?
You understand.
Yeah, we understand. We understand that you're a mental case. Holy sh**. So later that day, President Kamala Harris appeared on The God's Honest Truth with Charlemagne the God.
On the issue of voting, for example, and I can't talk about this enough, on the issue of voting, this is about everybody's right to vote. We're not telling people who to vote for. And there's in places like Montana, passing legislation to make it difficult for students to vote, Native Americans to vote, Black people to vote, Latinos to vote.
Huh, I had no idea that Montana was such a hotbed of voter suppression. We better take a look. Back in April 2021, Governor Greg Gianforte signed 2 bills, the first being House Bill 176. Previously, Montana voters could do same-day registration and register to vote on Election Day. But now, late registration closes on noon the day before. In other words, you have 364 days out of the year to register to vote. But not allowing a voter to register on the same day as an election? That's voter suppression. Do these people realize how stupid they sound? Then there's Senate Bill 169, which tweaked Montana's existing voter ID law. To vote in person, you need to have a Montana driver's license, a state ID card, military card, tribal photo ID, US passport, or Montana concealed carry permit. And if you don't have one of those, you need to provide a photo ID that shows your name, like from a school district or a college photo ID. Plus, you need to show a current utility bill or bank statement, paycheck, government check, or other government document that shows your name and current address. In other words, if you're an adult, you will be able to meet these very basic ID requirements. And if you can't, you have bigger problems than not being able to vote. But remember, this is the same woman that claimed that it was almost impossible for people in rural communities to vote by mail if they had to make a photocopy of their ID.
Right now, we need to start rallying because these laws are being passed right now that will make it almost impossible, at least very difficult for you to vote. There are a whole lot of people, especially people who live in rural communities, who don't, there's no Kinko's, there's no Office Max near them.
Pro tip, Madam Kamala, if everything is voter suppression, then nothing is.
Now, I know you wanted to speak on the Build Back Better plan too, but it seems like once again, Senator Joe Manchin is stopping progress on that. Why?
Well, look, Build Back Better is something that the president and I care deeply about. It was our original idea.
Here, Kamala Harris is trying to take credit for Build Back Better, even though Joe Biden introduced it well before she was picked as Biden's running mate.
Folks, it's not sufficient to build back. We have to build back better. That's what my plan is, to build back better.
And notice that Biden said, my plan, not our plan. And notice that it doesn't say Biden-Harris on the placard. That's because Harris wasn't part of the equation. But back to Leonard's comment blaming Senator Joe Manchin for Build Back Better stalling in Congress. Here's Harris's response.
I think it's a mistake to try and think about this only through the lens of Democrats versus Democrats, when the fact is Republicans are consistently and unanimously standing in the way of progress.
Very true.
In other words, Harris doesn't want to badmouth a Democrat, so she's saying that the real problem are those damn Republicans. But Charlemagne completely ignores Harris and goes into broken record mode.
Senator Joe Manchin is stopping progress. But where's the pushback on Senator Joe Manchin? If Democrats allow Joe Manchin to continue to do this, he's holding up progress. We know this. We know Joe Manchin is ruining this country. The stuff he's holding up progress on are hurting people. They're hurting black people. Democrat Joe Manchin is always blocking progress. Somebody has to push back on Joe Manchin. That guy is stopping progress.
I love that every note card Charlemagne is reading from basically says the same exact thing.
Who's the real president of this country? Is it Joe Manchin or Joe Biden?
Now, obviously, Charlemagne doesn't mean this literally. He's doing a thing. Like when Sean Hannity calls AOC the real Speaker of the House. But watching Kamala's response, I don't think she gets it.
Come on, Charlemagne.
Come
on. It's Joe Biden.
I can't tell sometimes.
No. It's Joe Biden. And don't start talking like a Republican about asking whether or not he's president.
She may be the vice president, but that response is clearly not vice presidential.
Do you think Joe Manchin is a problem?
It's Joe Biden, and I'm vice president, and my name is Kamala Harris.
Okay, fine, calm down. You're the vice president, whatever you say. And on that note, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, sharing, and slamming that like button. Be sure that you're still subscribed to the channel. And as always, I hope to see you next time. If there is next time.